Welcome to the EU-Japan Subnational Climate Action Workshop. Exchange between cities in Europe and Japan, opportunities for a resilient future, organized by the delegation of the European Union to Japan, Institute for Global Environment Strategy, IJAS, and the City of Yokohama. Today is the second day of two-day events in which we aim to contribute to the discussion on how the EU and Japan can enhance cooperation at the city level in order to meet the shared goal of net zero emission by 2050. Today we have two sessions. Topic 2, participatory local climate policy making and implementation, and Topic 3, climate finance. The discussion yesterday also mentioned the importance of today's topics in terms of accelerating local decarbonization. Now, let us start discussion. Allow me to welcome our moderator, Dr. Kenji Asakawa, Program Manager of the City Task Force Institute for Global Environment Strategies. So Dr. Asakawa, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Kataoka-san, and very good afternoon and very good morning, everyone. Welcome to Topic 2, Participatory Local Climate Policy Making and Implementation, the first session of Day 2 of EU-Japan 100 City event on climate action. My name is Kenji Asakawa. I'm Program Manager of City Task Force of IJAS and leading research on local climate policy and climate democracy to be discussed in this session. So I'm going to moderate this topic too, and where we aim to contribute to discussion on how the EU and Japan can accelerate climate democracy at city level in order to meet the shared goal of net zero emission by 2050. In this session, we invited 4 speakers, including 1 video message, and allocate time for the question and discussion by the end of this session. During question and discussion session, we are going to be involving our online audience to ask questions of our panelists as much as possible. And so you can submit them in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So the time for this session is very limited to 1 hour. So let's get right on to our first presentation. The first speaker is Ms. Anna Lisa Boni, Deputy Mayor, City of Bologna. She'll talk about Bologna Climate Mission and Climate City Contract. Now, let me welcome Anna. Anna, you have 10 minutes for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting Bologna and inviting myself to talk about this, may I call it crazy mission, crazy adventure, in which we have embarked together with another 99 cities in the European Union. This is about reaching climate neutrality before 2030, which means tomorrow, and which means 20 years before the goal that the EU has set for itself, which is 2050. Reaching climate neutrality so fast in such an accelerated way is a very complex and very challenging, let's say, goal that we have. But we see it really as a fundamental and above all necessary thing. So please, next. Arigato. So as you can read, reaching climate neutrality for any city is not a project, but a real mission. I really underline this all the time, because this is about changing the paradigm of transforming the city. It's a bit like, you know, the moonshot has been for the United States of America. So when man went on the moon, and it was a collective effort of the whole society, of the economy, research, you know, the finance, and above all citizens, everyone behind a screen and everyone behind the same goal, going on the moon. For us, it's about, it's a bit like reaching the moon, because it's a very complex mission, but so it's not a project. It's a very it's a multi-goal objective, it's a multi-goal initiative, and it is about federating everyone. So next, please. As I said, the main change in the paradigm is that it's about having a vision of how you want to see your city in 2030 and how you want to transform it. You have to transform it in a systemic way. You cannot approach this through sectorial work. You have to look at different areas of work, at different policies, different interventions, different objectives. And that's why for us, this mission is about, for sure, climate objectives, but not only. It's about reducing CO2 emissions and adapting to climate change, but it's also about changing the urban environment, meaning improving air quality, making it healthier, but also it's about how can we use public space in a different way? How can we make the city much more for people and less for cars, and more for, how do you say, making it livable space for people. And then also socioeconomic goals, objectives, because one of the main objectives of this mission is about reaching autonomy in terms of energy. We depend too much on external resources, gas and so on, from outside. We need to produce clean energy, and on the other side, we need to be autonomous in order to, for instance, respond to poverty and energy poverty, because part of solving and assuring a just transition is really about fighting poverty in general, but energy poverty is a big dimension of poverty. And also it's about creating a new economy, new jobs, new sectors for energy, for mobility, sustainable mobility, of course, and so on. And so we have to really make sure that there is no polarization between climate transition, the ecological transition, and work, because at the moment this can happen. The transition is complex, it's difficult, but we need to move towards the climate, let's say, clean energy production and so on. But to get there, the conversion is not easy. You have to watch not to make it confrontational. And of course, new forms of participation, which I will deepen a little bit in a couple of minutes. And then, of course, that's for me very important. If there are cities, if there are, let's say, public authorities that are listening to this event and are participating, I think one of the most important challenges that we face in achieving climate neutrality and in general, in order to solve the complex problems that that we face in reality, is about innovating administration, public administration, also the private sector, but also and very particularly administrative innovation. What does that mean? It means, for sure, starting to work much more systemically, as I said before, in a transversal way. If you look how is the budget, public budgets constructed, how are they constructed? They're constructed always looking at different policies, each pulling the blanket to their own thing. So it's really about crossing all these around very, let's say, cross-sectoral challenges, and also think of new ways of influencing the market, for instance, the energy market, with private public partnerships that can help that direction, or in general, public procurement. Next, please. This I more or less said, but it's really about renewable energy. So renewable energy, kilometer zero, increase the energy production, electrification of energy consumption. Of course, in buildings, 70% of our emissions come from buildings in Bologna. Reduce all needs, of consumptions and energy. If we don't do that, there's no point in increasing the production. We also have to decrease the consumption. Greening and pushing for nature-based solutions, and promoting innovation. As I said, both in market, working with the market, like I said before, legislations and policy. This needs to be innovated in a big way. We have a new master plan that allows more easily to install, for instance, solar panels and so on, or you have to oblige new constructions to be zero energy buildings and so on, but also working with information, education of people, and participation. And I will look into that. Next. These are just some examples of projects. We have a climate city contract that we have put together. As I said, the mission has to help us to federate everybody in the city, in the, let's say, in terms of the area we live in. So city, metropolitan area, and region. All the institutions have to be aligned. We also have many partners of different types. We have all the utilities, from the energy utility to the airport, the health, the hospitals, the health enterprises. We have academia, University of Bologna, who has, they have a lot of buildings. We have private partners. We have Toyota, for instance, who has just built zero energy building for them, for their site. Many companies, important companies, and so on. We have basically 92 partners. 24 have identified actions that can be quantified in terms of reduction of CO2 emissions, in terms of production of green energy, and in terms of financing. So 241 actions organized by 24 partners inside an investment plan, and also 72 partners that have identified actions that are immaterial, meaning education, awareness raising, and so on, and participation. Next, please. And that's the one I wanted to concentrate for my last, I don't know how many minutes, I didn't look, but I think I guess 2-3 minutes. In terms of, if we don't have, this alliance we have set up, which is the Climate City Contract, is really an alliance that was never done in the past for the city. An alliance that has such a wide variety of partners, so different, all the areas are involved. So the typology of partners, private, public, semi-public, associations, third sector, but also citizenship. So this makes this Climate City Contract so much more, heavy, so much heavier, and so much more impactful, just because there is a strong involvement and an active participation of people. And how do we do that? We have, instruments that are helping schools. So with the showroom that you see, the last one, the third, which is really trying to achieve and reach so many schools, and thousands of schools with, knowledge about the climate crisis. It's finished? Sorry. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that the most important project is the Climate Assembly, Citizens Assembly. But maybe I finished my time, and I'm so sorry.
So sorry about that. So yeah,
Oh, that's a pity. But I wanted to talk about the Climate Assembly of Citizens. It's really a unique experience, with
actually, the last
citizens.
slide is very very connected to today's topic. So yeah, thank you very much, Anna, for your insightful presentation. So I know you need to leave soon. So before you leave, let me ask some questions we received from the floor.
Okay.
Audience. So one question is, how was that decision made that Bologna will be carbon neutral by 2030? Did you involve local actors and citizens, or did you inform them afterwards?
So no, the reaching climate neutrality by 2030. So being part of of the mission, the EU mission, was a decision that was taken by the alliance that, let's say, presented a program to be elected as a, with the new mayor, the mayor of the city of Bologna in 21. So that was one of the big priorities that the program mandate had, and we were elected with that priority as part of this. And this was part of a, we call it Fabbrica del Programma, so a program fabric, I don't know how to call it, that, took 6-10 months of discussion with people in the city, including students.
Okay, thank you very much. So after all the presentation today, so we'd like to ask about the how to involve young people or some social vulnerable people groups to be involved in the discussion, public discussion for that.
Yeah. So first of all, like, how do we do it? The Climate Assembly has been a very interesting example of involvement because it's random selection of 100 citizens, and we use the criteria of also gender, age. So there are a lot of young people there, but also older ones, residents. So that means also from neighborhoods that are more, more vulnerable, and areas of the cities where the economic level is less high. And so also city users like students, 20% were city users like students as part of that. So that meant that the group that worked 6 months together, first they got a training on and a lot of information and training on climate from a very independent made program, not ourselves. They heard the people are for, the people were against, they heard lots of things, and then they produced together their own positions, which they presented to the city council, and the city council included those proposals in the climate city contract. So that's one way of doing this. But we also do the participatory budgeting, and so we give an amount of we had over 1 million, and this we did it through the so-called neighborhoods administration, but also neighborhood district homes, we call them district hubs, and there you have a lot of different sorts of people, but also people, including people that are normally out of the, let's say, civic circuit, formal circuit. So that's one way. It's really about, for us, the key word of all our way of working is proximity. So we have a lot of projects in terms of engagement with really going inside the district, working with clubs and groups and schools and all types of ways that can make whatever we think we should do in terms of policy for the city inside, in the really in a capillary way inside the population. So it's really with different ways and initiatives. We have set up specific office that we call network offices inside the district administrations that work with local associations and so on. So it's really about investing resources and people to reach people.
Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. It's very interesting. So, so sorry.
And if you want to
so
know
we
more
need to...
about the assembly, you can ask me. I can send a PowerPoint just dedicated to that,
please.
because it's a very unique. We had to change our municipal statutes to include the citizens assembly like any other organ, like the city council, or so it's really a change that has never been done by anybody.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. It's very, very appreciated.
In this way, I mean.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your precious time. And you need to move on to the next appointment.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And excuse me for, being too long. Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's move on to the next speaker. The second speaker is Mr. Nobuhiro Saito, the section chief, citywide eco-town promotion section, environmental cleanness department, Tokorozawa City. So he will talk about Tokorozawa Climate Assembly, citywide zero carbon citizen assembly. So now let me welcome Saito-san. You also have 10 minutes for your presentation. よろしくお願いします。
はい、よろしくお願いします。聞こえてますでしょうか。
Thank you. Can you hear my voice? Yes, we can hear you.
大丈夫そうですね。はい、
It seems okay. So I just put up my slide. I am Saito from Tokorozawa. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to me today. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So I'd like to talk about Tokorozawa Climate Assembly of the city. So first of all, with regards to Tokorozawa City, we are next to Tokyo, which is capital of Japan. We are 30 minutes from the center of Tokyo by train. So we've been developed as a bedroom community or commuter town. We have a population of 340,000. There are 160,000 households with 72 square kilometers. We're close to a capital city, but we have rich greenery, like wooded areas or farmland. So we can say that we are a regional city with a good combination of nature and various city functions. I'd like to start from a brief explanation about our decarbonization efforts as a city. We're aiming at a net zero by 2050. We're aiming at zero carbon city. And for that purpose, we have been proactively implementing renewable energy. This photo shows a installation of solar power generation equipment at the public facilities such as waste disposal site and regulating ponds. And also, solar facilities has been installed at the public facilities. This is a school rooftop. We have 47 elementary and junior high schools, and more than 70% of those schools have those rooftop solar equipment. Not only that, we have established a local electric company called Tokorozawa Future Electric Power, TFEP, and we've been selling electricity generated to public facilities and business and residents. With this, we were able to reduce the GHG emissions from public facilities by 85%. I'd like to now talk about the overview of the Tokorozawa City Citizens Assembly. As I mentioned earlier, Tokorozawa has developed as a bedtown or bedroom community, and the largest contributor of the emission is from households. And we've been making many efforts to implement renewable energy, but the changing lifestyle of the citizens is also important. That is why we set up a climate assembly. And the objective of establishment of the assembly is to connect the outcomes of the meeting to the revision of the city's basic environment plan. And it was promised to participating citizens that the city would duly embrace the results of the meeting. And as you can see, sponsor was a Tokorozawa City, and we gained the collaboration from the Waseda University, which has its campus in our city. Now, how we selected participants. So we sent out a invitation or the information to 4,500 out of random selection. Ultimately, 51 were selected. So this is the composition of the participants. Ultimately, we gave consideration to gender, age, and the area of residence to create a microcosm of the city. Discussed topics. We had 5 meetings, and there were 5 topics: product selection, food and agriculture, energy, housing, mobility, and community partnership. Those topics 6 subtopics actually was decided by the participating citizens at the first meeting. And when citizens are to make comment, they write down their ideas on the post-it. And then those post-it slip or turns to or digitized. Yellow means ideas, pink challenges, green are countermeasures. And ultimately, the number of those slips or post-it slips exceeded 2,000. So that means we had gained more than 2,000 opinions from the participants, and the results were put together as a report, and the contents of the report was reflected in the action plan of the city. And also, we enacted a Tokozawa City Ordinance for realization of a decarbonized society. So we thought it is important to share what was discussed as an image, and so we created a like a picture to show the future of the city. I believe this picture is really well made. So this reflects the idea of the participant citizens, and I do believe that this photo is to encourage everybody wanting to create this city by 2050. And there's a QR code to access the report, so please access if you are interested. And about the characteristic of this assembly, I believe it is about the collaboration with Waseda University, and collaboration with the university was further deepened through this initiative. And in future, not limited to environment, but we also would like to work with the university in the area of well-being of the citizen and health. And the students of the university or the other participants created a club called Zero Carbon Club after the assembly meeting. And the birth of new civic movement led by young people as a result of the assembly was something completely unexpected. We were surprised, but I think it was very interesting that there was such a positive side effect. Lastly, I'd like to share with you my personal impression. To realize decarbonized society is said to be, it is said that the change in lifestyle is essential, but there are many Japanese people who don't favor changes. But in order to gain understanding and support from those people who do not favor changes, I do really think it is important that we share a vision of the future of our town with them and think together and work together. And I really believe that the Climate Assembly was the first major step toward that goal. As a society and economy is to change more drastically, I really believe that this kind of climate assembly type activity will become more and more important for citizens to discuss and influence society. Thank you very much. That was my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saito-san, for your informative presentation. Yeah, it's really based on your experience of actual climate citizen assemblies. Okay, so the third speaker is Ms. Satoko Kishimoto, a mayor of Suginami Ward in Tokyo. So unfortunately today she is not able to attend, but she kindly sent us a video message instead, and how Suginami promotes climate democracy at local level.
杉並区長の岸本聡子です。
I'm Kishimoto Satoko, mayor of Suginami Ward. Climate change countermeasures or climate action are an urgent issue, so we are holding Suginami Ward climate citizen conferences roughly once a month from March to August this year to proactively consider what we can do as a local government and to reflect the opinions of our residents in our policies. When I ran for mayor of Suginami Ward about 2 years ago, I made it a campaign promise to hold a climate citizens conference, and I would like to share with you my own history. I was just about to graduate from high school when the Earth Summit was held in Brazil in 1992. My understanding of the Earth Summit is that it was an important conference where global environmental issues were first properly recognized in the international political arena. The concept agreed upon there was a sustainable development. In 1972, an international think tank called the Club of Rome published a report called Limits to Growth, which drew worldwide attention by announcing that if human economic activity continues in the current way, it will no longer be sustainable within 100 years. It took 20 years for it to become a political issue. That's when I became a high school student and a university student. In 1997, the Kyoto Conference on Global Warming, the third conference of the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP3, was held. 25 years have passed since then, and we are now at COP28. Scientists on climate change have been conducting scientific verification up to this day, and have been saying for decades that global warming is caused by human activities. When I was a university student, I faced this issue and became very interested in environmental issues. At that time, I also realized that climate change is a north-south issue. I was very interested in why there is such a large difference in the amount of energy and resources used by poor southern countries and rich northern countries, and why there is such a large gap between the rich and the poor, even though there is a limit to how much resources can be used continuously. Looking at this, I realized that in order to use limited resources sustainably, we need to think not only about the current gap, but also about using them for future generations. I thought that this was a political and economic issue. Currently, this north-south problem is progressing in the form of inequality even within a single country. The gap between those who have resources and money and those who do not is widening in today's society. In 1997, in preparation for the Kyoto Conference on Global Warming, I was still in my early 20s. But I thought that in order to have a say in politics, we had to take actions ourselves. So I worked with environmental clubs at universities all over Japan and ran a campaign for a year to see how much CO2 we could reduce by changing our lifestyles, and we quantified the results and submitted them to the government of Japan. The Kyoto Protocol was decided at COP3. It was the first time that a binding public target was agreed upon in international politics, with Japan reducing CO2 emissions by 6%, the EU by 8%, and the United States by 7% from 1990 levels. 26 years have already passed since then. Young people who had been taking action to reduce greenhouse gases for a year decided to cycle from all over Japan to Kyoto. Also from abroad, a climate train was launched with a call of young people from Europe and Russia to take part in COP3 on the Trans-Siberia Railway from Moscow to Vladivostok. Young people from South Korea joined the group, and once they reached Kobe port, they cycled to Kyoto. They went there by bike with the aim of making visible the problem of CO2 from air transport. We welcomed the young people at Kobe port, and the Japanese young people cycled with them to Kyoto. I really worked hard on that. And the last international conference these young people held was on the theme of climate justice now. The issue of climate change is an injustice that exists between those who create the problem and those who are affected by it, and it is not just a national or regional issue, but one that transcends generations. The issue of climate change is a fundamental question about the state of our society, economy, and civilization, and it is the young people who will live in the future who must speak out. It's a big problem, but it's not a gloomy thing. It's an action to create a future, to envision society, and we all have to do this together. I've gained strength from these activities and have come to this day. The climate change issue is my way of life, and I became the ward mayor with that feeling. Next, I'd like to talk about the significance of the Climate Citizens Conference. What has international politics done since COP3? Unfortunately, I think it's been 20 years of lost time. In 2018, Greta Thunberg, who was 15 years old at the time, started the school strike for climate, skipping a school and standing alone in front of the Swedish parliament. Her actions are quickly spread among young people, and Fridays for Future became a global movement. From this point on, the climate change issue returned to the international political arena in its original sense. After more than 20 years of lost time, we are living in a critical situation where the worsening global warming is reaching a tipping point that will cause irreversible changes for humanity and the Earth. The IPCC has warned that to avoid this, it is necessary to have global carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions by 2030. We believe that we must take seriously this climate crisis issue, which has returned to the international political arena due to this youth movement. At the Suginami World Climate Citizens Conference, participants asked why they thought climate change measures or action should be taken at the world level. They also asked questions about the perspective from which the world, a basic local government, should take actions. The foundation of life and industry lies in local governments and municipalities. Climate change is directly linked to frequent natural disasters and constant heat, which is a crisis for public health and life. Many local governments believe that it is necessary to face up the climate change issue and take concrete action. And there are many local government leaders around the world who think the same. What about the economic aspect? It has been estimated that the total energy expenditures, such as fossil fuels, costs, and electricity bills used by businesses, households, public institutions, transportation, and cars in Suginami Ward exceed 100 billion yen per year. Most fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas, are purchased from overseas, and the money flows out of overseas, resulting in them being burned locally and becoming CO2. The world's general account budget for this fiscal year is about 222.9 billion yen, so I am surprised at the amount of money spent on fossil fuels. Even just from the perspective of finances and household finances, it is clear that it is very meaningful for local governments to tackle the climate change crisis. Local governments can choose to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy that can be produced locally as much as possible and create a carbon-free local economy and society. Why is a civic action like the Climate World Citizens Conference necessary? I believe there is a very large gap between science and politics, and I believe that it is the power of the people that can fill that gap. The climate change issue is urgent, complex, and radical. Politicians basically operate in an election cycle, a cycle of 4 or 5 years. For better or worse, the government has to think about what they can do, and it is easy to think about it. And because the division of responsibilities is clearly set, it inevitably becomes a vertical or silo. In this situation, citizens are free to learn and think for themselves from a long-term perspective to solve problems regardless of election cycles or vertical divisions or silos. I believe that it is the power of citizens that can essentially build consensus on this issue, which must be accompanied by social transformation. And as the mayor of Suginami Ward, I would like to tackle this issue head-on thinking about how to connect what the participants of the Climate Citizen Conference thought, discussed, and reached agreement on it to policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kishimoto-san, and thank you very much, Secretariat and interpreters. So the last speaker is Mr. Gerardo Rio, Head of Citizens Participation Department in the Urban Ecology Area, Barcelona. He will talk about participation strategies in climate policies. Now let me welcome Gerardo. And you also have 10 minutes for your presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay, so good afternoon, and thank you for inviting the City of Barcelona to this event. I will focus my presentation on explaining the participation strategies in climate change that we develop here in the City of Barcelona. We mainly use 5 strategies or participation mechanisms: bodies and permanent commissions, participation actions and participatory processes, online participation, deliberative instruments, and co-production and collaborative challenge. Bodies and permanent spaces of participation are very useful to us for design of plans, program, or municipal strategies. We have made several plans: the Citizen Commitment for a More Sustainable Barcelona, the Barcelona More Sustainable Network, the Table Against Air Pollution, a Zero Waste Table, or a door-to-door household waste collection monitoring commissions. In these spaces of participation, the City Council debates environmental policies with entities and citizen organizations. There are also the participation. They're very useful, this participatory process, for improving projects or municipal regulations with citizen inputs. If the process is set up properly, it allows taking into consideration opinions, interests, and needs of specific groups, and we make a process for implementing here in Barcelona the low emission zone. It also allows the incorporation of the views of technical agents or experts with very specific knowledge, and we have made a process to implement a grey water recycling regulation here in the city. And with these instruments, we improve the applicability of the regulations and therefore their effectiveness. Online participation, it's very useful to encourage the participation of people who usually do not participate or who are not able to participate in face-to-face sessions, to reach younger people and to be able to participate at any time, from any place, and from any device. We use the City in Barcelona. It's a participatory platform and that use the City Council, and is currently used in more than 30 countries and more than 240 institutions, and has more than 1 million participants around the world. The City in Barcelona allows to conduct surveys on habits or aspects linked to climate change. Citizens can support proposals. We can work on collaborative texts, monitor and report on citizens' proposals that are implemented. Here you can see an example of the site for monitoring the execution of projects on the first participatory project here in Barcelona. These are image examples of the space for citizens' proposals, which the City Council evaluates and answers if they are accepted or rejected, or the space of collaborative text that allows normative text or declarations to be worked together the City Councils and citizens. And now we are promoting deliberative instruments. They are very useful to us to be able to contrast with citizens' projects or policies that are complex or difficult to implement, or that involve changes in lifestyle or habits, or that require a long-term view. We have implemented in Barcelona the Citizens' Assembly for Climate, or a project of active listening groups with vulnerable citizens on climate change. These kind of projects allow us the implementation of actions or measures contrasted with citizens and take into account the special needs of groups that may have difficulties if certain policies are applied without support, accompaniment, or exceptions or specificities for vulnerable people to climate change. The Barcelona Climate Assembly took place between April 2022 and January 2023 and consisted of 4 main stages. A stage of preparation and selection of participants between April and July. In September, a second moment of 3 training sessions and selection of topics to be discussed in the assembly. The topics chosen by the participants were mobility, energy, and consumption and waste. Also, we have a deliberation stage of 6 sessions between October and November. And finally, between December and January, we have a stage of voting of the proposals, and also the participants presented the proposals or the recommendations to the mayor of Barcelona. Also, the No One Behind project has consisted of active listening groups with vulnerable citizens on climate change issues. The topics have been home conditioning, energy efficiency, and renewable energy. Also, public space, preparing the city for climate or change or to tackle climate change. Also, mobility issues like the lower visual zone or public transport, and also the use of spaces and facilities in the city as a water shelter. It's a very concerning topic for us. And the groups have been held with seniors, children, people with energy vulnerability or energy poverty, people of diverse origins, women, health and dependency people, and also homeless people. And finally, we have these co-production activities or different challenges that are very useful to us and for citizens to present concrete projects to deal with climate change and to work on shared or joint solutions to tackle this challenge of the current climate emergency. We have 2 main types of activities, the participatory budgets and also this administration citizen joint work on specific challenges. Concrete projects are implemented, especially those linked to public spaces, and we work together with citizens on critical or long-term challenges where the public sector needs private collaboration to achieve successful results. Here are the different types of projects that have been executed with the participatory budgets. Many of the projects are linked to public space in order to adapt it to climate change with parks and green areas of the city. The people want more green areas here in Barcelona, or with sustainable mobility projects. And now we're starting to work on collaborative challenges in which the City Council and citizens work together. We have started working on 2 main challenges. One on decarbonization, since Barcelona wants to become a neutral city in emissions by 2030. And one other challenge on saving water due to the severe drought that Barcelona is suffering now. To work these challenges, we have the Barcelona More Sustainable Network, which has more than 2,000 entities, institutions, companies, universities, schools working together, and that can sign up for the tackle with the City Council these important challenges. And that's all for me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yep. Thank you very much, Gerardo, for your informative presentation. So now, yeah, we learned lots of various good practices of climate democracy initiative. And let's move on to the question and discussion. So I have a common question to both of you. As I asked to Anna, I'd like you, all of you, to share any success stories or challenges faced in engaging young people and other typically underrepresented groups in your climate initiatives. So first, Saito-san of Tokorozawa. So in Tokorozawa, you said that composition of the participants was adjusted so that it was the microcosm of the entire Tokoroza city. But I have the impression that there were slightly more groups under the age 19. So I wondered if you intentionally recruited a little bit more that group people. And also, it was assumed that young people under 19 would have difficulty speaking up in a group with so many adults participating. So you can, I appreciate you can tell me any how this actually worked out. So in that group, thank you.
はい、質問ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for that question.
所沢市で行った気候市民会議
For our Climate Citizen Assembly, we had 51 participants. Out of that,
11 名
and there were 11 of them who are 19 years old or lower. So there was a little larger portion of the younger people. The ratio of the younger people was larger than actual city population. So whether it was good or not, it's up to
ためにやるんだっていう
the eyes of the judge. But the objective, as we saw, of the assembly, one of it is this is for the young people. And also, what we
大人たちを目の
thought was
萎縮してしまって発言ができ
that we wanted to, we were actually anxious that the young people may not be able to speak up in front of adults. But actually, when we started the event or the meeting, unexpectedly, adults were
言葉に
actually ready to listen to younger people's voice seriously. It was really impressive to me. And actually, there even were high school students.
稚拙な発言があった
So maybe some of their opinions were not really mature, but still people were eagerly listening to the voices of the young people.
考えていた
And as
注意していた
organizer,
若者だけじゃなくて
we try to make sure that not young people, but there is an atmosphere for everybody to feel that it's easy to speak up. So we paid attention to make sure that they already feel comfortable to speak up. How should I say, to ensure like speaking up freely.
結果的には
So as a result, not only young people, but I feel that everybody was able to speak up, and I think such atmosphere was created. That's all. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much, 斉藤さん。So actually, IGES is working as a secretariat for the Suginami Climate Citizen Assemblies. So so far, we have 77 participants with 11 participants under 90. So it's accounting for 40% of total participants. But and we have already conducted 3 assemblies so far, but deliberation, we just started from the 3rd assembly. So I observed some participants under 19 have not yet been actively speaking up. So yeah, we learn lots of this experience from Saito-san in the Tokoroza's case. So, okay, so in the case of Barcelona, the DCM could help overcome those challenges, but it might create other challenges, including less engagement of people with less internet accessibility, so especially elder people. So I would appreciate your comments on what challenges this theme might create and how you address them.
Yeah. As As a city, we are very concerned that participation in climate initiative needs to be representative, diverse, and inclusive. We are very interested in engaging people or groups who usually do not participate and thus who are underrepresented, such as children, young people, elderly, women, migrants, or people with disabilities. The City in Barcelona, our online platform of participation, helps us to connect and stimulate the participation of young people. And, for example, has also succeeded in mobilizing people born in other countries, such India or Pakistan, by supporting a participatory budgeting project to build a cricket field here in the city. However, it's true that digital exclusion can hinder the participation of older people or people who do not have devices with an internet connection. For this reason, we enable spaces in public facilities with internet connection, and we help people to use our participation platform. We also try to make digital participation a complement to a face-to-face participation. The digital participation is never the only option for participation. And finally, we have verified that we do not have to wait for people to come to the session or participation activities. We have to go to their meeting places if we want to engage them, especially with young people and other typically underrepresented groups. That's why, for example, we hold participation activities in schools, institute, residences for elderly, or that we do specific activities with women in public spaces.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. So, as you may know, DCDM is one of the very effective tool, digital tool, which is used also in Japan, and Kakogawa City has been applying that method for student participation. So, so the reason of why a public participation is effective for the policy-making process, because climate change policy is polarized and difficult to settle politically. So there was other reasons why public participation is effective. So in policy, the other reason is such. It's easier for people to propose idea that cannot be thought by the government officials. And I would appreciate you to describe any advantage of student participation. So first, may I ask Saito-san first?
Thank you very much. Yes, as you mentioned, well, the public officers do have some limitation in terms of idea. If we solicit ideas from public, we're expected to be able to gain many ideas, different ideas, new ideas. And we did gain some interesting ideas out of our initiative. And we were able to reflect those out-of-box thinking idea from citizens to actual policy. That was quite impressive. Thank you very much.
Okay, what about you, Gerald?
Yeah, it's very important for us to have this citizen input, especially in these complex topics like climate change, or that needs to make a great consensus. So we try to make citizen assemblies or working together in these challenges in order to have the citizen view, not only the politician view or the technical view from the civil servants. So here we need to contrast with citizens if they can change their lifestyle with the measures that we are proposing. So having this citizen inputs is very important for us, and we spend time and trying to engage them and to make the participatory activities to have their opinion.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yes, it's good. True, yes. So,
So
okay,
the time
we have just only 5 minutes left, so let me have final words from both of you, such as major takeaway from this session or ways forward. So may I have Gerald first?
As a city, we are very concerned that participation in climate initiative needs to be representative, diverse, and inclusive. We are very interested in engaging people or groups who usually do not participate and thus who are underrepresented, such as children, young people, elderly, women, migrants, or people with disabilities. The city in Barcelona, our online platform of participation, helps us to connect and stimulate the participation of young people. And, for example, has also succeeded in mobilizing people born in other countries, such India or Pakistan, by supporting a participatory budgeting project to build a cricket field here in the city. However, it's true that digital exclusion can hinder the participation of older people or people who do not have devices with an internet connection. For this reason, we enable spaces in public facilities with internet connection, and we help people to use our participation platform. We also try to make digital participation a complement to a face-to-face participation. The digital participation is never the only option for participation. And finally, we have verified that we do not have to wait for people to come to the session or participation activities. We have to go to their meeting places if we want to engage them, especially with young people and other typically underrepresented groups. That's why, for example, we hold participation activities in schools, institute, residences for elderly, or that we do specific activities with women in public spaces.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, so as you may know, DCDM is one of the very effective tool, digital tool, which is used in also in Japan, and Kakogawa City is has been applying that method for student participation. So so the reason of why a public participation is effective for the policy making process, because climate change policy is polarized and difficult to settle politically. So there was other reasons why public participation is effective. So in policy, the other reason is such. It's easier for people to propose idea that cannot be thought by the government officials. And I would appreciate you to describe any advantage of student participation. So first, may I ask Saito-san first?
Thank you very much. So my final word. Well, first of all, once again, thank you very much for giving this opportunity. I'm really grateful. And our assembly, Tokorozawa's Climate Assembly, we had 5 sessions. And with regards to those climate actions, to promote climate actions, actually there was no single person who was against promoting the actions, but people had different positions in terms of the approaches. So it was really important. I really sensed and understood that it is important to understand the differences that each side. And one of the best thing, this outcome was the following. So we, the public officers, were reminded that we really have to listen to the people's voice in eager, like a young public officer or the more senior public officer. We all strongly felt the importance of listening to the public officers. And this learning was helpful in all part of our job outside of climate action as well. It was really good. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Gerardo, and thank you very much, Saito-san, for your takeaways as final message. And actually, so as Saito-san explained, so public participation will contribute to the consensus building, and consensus building is very critical for the decarbonization, local decarbonization. So yeah, in that context, climate democracy will contribute to build to achieve such a goal. Yeah, I believe. Thank you very much. I'm going to close this session right now. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speakers, and also thank you very much for the moderation for the Asakawa-san. Thank you very much.